Morning and welcome to the September 26th meeting of the Citizen Oversight Board. We do not have a guest today, so the majority of today's meeting will focus on board business and administration. We have got a lot going on, so it's a welcome opportunity, I think, for us to do that. Okay, a few announcements. Denver Police Department public comment period on education-based discipline, education-based development policy ends September 30th. Please take time to submit a comment with your thoughts on the proposal. Just a note, the board continues to believe that the policy is not a good idea, and any amount of refinement of it is only sort of modifying something that's not the right place to start at all. We sent a community sign-on letter opposing education-based development to Chief Thomas, the new Executive Director of Safety, Al Gardner, and the Mayor. And so we will see what comes of that. There's also coming out of the town hall with Brother Jeff a few weeks ago, some organization around a community meeting with the chief in order to provide additional opportunities for engagement and dialogue. Next, there continue to be 2 seats on the board that we need to fill. 20 months now on waiting for that appointment.
Yeah, your audio is kind of wonky, Julia. Can you repeat?
Uh-oh.
She's freezing.
City Council, on the other hand, has closed their application period and are reviewing candidates. So they've done.
We lost you there.
Yep.
For a good chunk.
Okay. I'm going to try and join from my phone.
You cut out as you were sharing about the vacancies.
Okay. I'll rejoin from my phone. I'll be right back.
Okay.
All right, we'll just give her a minute.
Hi there. Can you hear me better now?
Much better.
Okay, great. For some reason, the internet is not working at all at our house today. So joining from my phone. Okay, with regard to the 2 vacancies that we have on the board, 1 seat is appointed by the mayor, and we have been waiting 20 months for that to be filled. So hopefully the mayor and his team can help find a suitable candidate for that in the short term. City Council, on the other hand, has closed their application period and are now reviewing candidates. So hopefully we get an appointment soon from the City Council side. This week, the City Auditor published a report on the OIM's performance, which we'll be discussing with the monitor in a little bit. And that is available for public review on the auditor's website. Lastly, in order to better engage our city's Latino community on the subject of EBD, Chief Thomas has agreed to join us for a community forum Monday, October 13th. The forum will be at approximately 5 o'clock at the Westwood Community Center, and Spanish language interpretation will be available. So please save the date, and more details to come on that soon. Any other board announcements or items in these areas? Okay. If we can, I would love to have a motion to approve the September 12th meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Great. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes. Great. All right, so let's see. For discussion today, Monitor Castle, I don't know if you want to start off by sort of talking about the conversation with the audit committee this week, or if you want to sort of save that to the end.
I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay. Board members, might you have any questions on that document?
Liz, this is Rufina. Is there a timeline typically for the recommendations and then the work that follows?
Yeah, I can't remember them off the top of my head. I would have to go to our response. There were some that we could do fairly quickly. Most of them are tied to our reporting. So I think the majority of them are by spring, which is coincides with our March 15th annual report, with the exception of the strategic plan that will, we have till I think we said September of 2026 to implement.
Yeah, and then some of the recommendations actually will take more than just your office's work. I'm thinking about if there was a change in the ordinance, for example, or something like that. How does that work?
Well, we agreed to evaluate the ordinance, and so the only way that we can do that is by preparing a report and making those determinations. What they've asked us to do is to review the ordinance and see if there is a need for changes, and we do that as we prepare the report.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions from board members on that? A question for me. I know there was a lot of discussion about the role of the city attorney's office. Have you all started to discuss sort of, you know, the puts and takes on that, or you know, what conversations are sort of the next steps there?
The next step is for us to meet internally. We haven't had an opportunity to do that yet, due to other business that's been kind of behind due to the audit and EBD. So we will meet and formalize how we were going to approach complying with the recommendations from the auditor and the recommendations that we agree to. So we need to kind of meet and define what's the process going to be, what is the review going to look like, and how are we going to memorialize it. We actually were planning on doing that today. However, one of our crew members is sick.
Okay, got it.
One of the things that he's or the auditor's office stressed was that you could utilize the independent counsel, and I think you responded to that at the last meeting that we had. But just to refresh my memory, what are the challenges with the independent counsel idea?
We haven't had, at least since I've been in the office, we haven't had the need to use independent counsel. Obviously, the biggest challenge right now is budget. We're not budgeted. We have no budget. We have cut our budget 5% for going forward. But yeah, assuming we had the money to seek independent counsel, then the question is, what authority do they have over the city, and how do they engage? A recommendation from independent counsel is not binding on the city in any way, shape, or form. And so is it more of a tool in terms of an alternate review and support for us if we choose to, if we have a conflict with the city attorney's office? So those are kind of the things that need to be considered.
Yeah, I would think that it is a support to you all in getting perhaps and not that the city attorney is biased, but it's also, you know, a unique situation to be guiding an independent agency or body versus their efforts to also keep the city's interests in mind. So it does perhaps give you a different perspective if we were to utilize independent counsel. But I understand about the budgeting issue, so yes.
And it's a question of also, is there something we are being prevented from doing? And that's what we have agreed to review with the auditor.
Right, okay.
Who do the auditor and the city clerk use as their attorneys? Do they use the city attorney? Do we know?
I don't know.
Okay, because that might be something to look at too, is these sort of separate entities. Go ahead, Daniel, I see your hands up.
I think in the audit committee meeting, the city attorney said that they do represent the city auditor's office. I'm not sure
Okay.
about the city clerk. But the city attorney did say that they also represent the city auditor's office.
Okay. Then perhaps it's a question too to the auditor's office, if that is the case, how they sort of work around the potential for conflict of interest in that office. And maybe it's a model to follow. They themselves are comfortable with that. So, because their role is similar in terms of independent authority. Okay. Other questions from board members?
Yes, I'm wondering if we have gotten any response from city council regarding the report from the auditors.
Not to me.
Gotcha. Thanks.
We've had numerous, maybe that's too strong. We've had a couple of inquiries from the press. Julia, where are we at this point? What was, who was it that reached out to us, and what was the final upshot?
Yeah, just the Denver Gazette. I gave an interview to them earlier this week, and they published an article, I think shortly thereafter. So we can send that around to the board in the Friday roundup if that is helpful. Other than that, I haven't heard anything, and we haven't been asked to provide any comment in any other regard. I will say that we got some letters from the community on that report, including a note from the task force to reimagine public safety and the Denver Justice Project. I think it's worth talking at length about that letter. There are a number of things in the letter that are actually already legally required of us. So an example would be to have the community participate in the hiring of the monitor. The language that we follow is very prescriptive in terms of the ordinance. It requires us to have a 7-member panel. Each member is identified in the city charter or in the ordinance. And so we actually have that by design. There are a couple of other things that are noted in that letter that are, again, already required. So I think it's worth maybe parsing as a board to try and understand, you know, where their recommendations may actually be things that exist, but just they don't necessarily have transparency into or familiarity with. So yeah.
Do you want to do that now?
Would we like to discuss that now?
Might as well, yeah.
Okay. Sure. Let me pull up that letter.
And well, you're if I recall right, that the Gazette article that also incorporated a response from the monitor's office. Has the monitor received any inquiries from other news outlets?
Yes, actually, CBS contacted us and there was a report, I believe last night on, it's on the CBS website. And I think that's it.
Thank you.
Daniel, can you forward that to me again? I'm having a hard time finding it in my email.
If,
Will do.
if you can share it, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to just put it up on the screen, but let me sort of read through the things here. Thank you. Thanks. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. I meant to pull it up before the meeting, but my internet wasn't working.
I just forwarded it to you.
Okay, thanks. We'll wait for the internet to take its time. Got it. Okay, got it. All right, so let's see. The letter is categorized into 4 or 5 different reform areas. So the first is strengthen public transparency requirements. Next is clarify and expand the legal authority for disclosure. Third is ensure independent oversight of the OIM. Fourth is expand community access and input. And fifth is protect against retaliation. So I'll start with the protect against retaliation. When the voters changed the reporting relationship of the monitor from the mayor to the Citizen Oversight Board, a majority of the members of the monitor's office became part of the civil service program and therefore have increased protections against retaliation. And so that was at least one of the recommendations that already exists and was something that the board was concerned about years ago, but has since taken action on, and the voters of Denver approved that. So working backwards, expand community access and input. There's a note around hold public forums after reports are issued to explain findings, get community feedback on oversight priorities, disaggregate disciplinary data, and include community stakeholder input on the annual performance metrics of the monitor. So starting from the beginning there, I will say that the board has had public forums recently, both to talk about our report, but the monitor's office, we've done that collaboratively with the monitor's office. In general, those are very lightly attended. And so if community members have ideas on how to improve that, I think we could always do a better job, and it's part of the reason we created the community engagement committee in the first place, to make sure we're doing as much community engagement that is meaningful as possible. Any comments on that area from the board? I think the item for board interest in particular is the annual performance of the monitor and include community stakeholder input. As a note of process, we don't typically go out to the community as part of our annual report, which is our formal performance review of the monitor, but there's no reason we couldn't do that if the board felt like that was a meaningful exercise.
Yeah, I think that's one that's possibly much easier to implement, is when we issue our reports, having some community discussions about what we've learned, what we've still got work to do on. So that's something that I think that they're recommending that we can certainly try to implement.
Yeah, and I guess my point is we have implemented that, but it hasn't been very popular. So if folks have ideas on how to increase the attendance at that, we recognize that need ourselves, I think. But the last forums have had 8, 10, 12 folks, but not more.
Okay.
So the next one is ensure independent oversight of the OIM, conduct regular reporting by the COB on OIM transparency in our annual report, require the COB approval for OIM reporting policies, and implement regular audits of OIM transparency practices. I will say our role is not to approve the operations of the monitor's office. I don't even know if we have the authority to do that. So I think that would be something to take caution with. And then I think auditing the monitor has a really specific feel in my mind, and I'm not sure again that that's our role, but I'm interested in what board members think on that item.
I think we already do report on the effectiveness of the OIM.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, I'm wondering about that particular statement of conduct regular reporting by the COB on OIM transparency.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if there's more that they're requesting than what we've been able to provide so far. So that's a question I have, is where do they feel the COB is lacking?
I have a question about the audit itself. In terms of, my understanding is that the last audit was performed back in 2011. What exactly precipitates an audit?
I'm sorry, Karen, what was your question?
I was saying that it was my understanding that the last audit occurred in 2011 or was published in 2011.
Yes.
What precipitates an audit being done?
I'm not sure I can answer that. It has been obviously at least, quite a while since our last audit. And I don't think it's uncommon for city groups to, over the years, get audited more than once. But what precipitated this particular audit, I can't say.
I think this was part of their standard audit plan. They do sort of like a rotation across agencies. And so the reason, it's been 10 years is because there's so many agencies to review. And so it takes a while to sort of get to each of them. At least when I worked in the state, that was sort of how it was. There's like regularly scheduled audits and then topic specific audits. So, if you were a child support services, person and a child died in your custody, maybe there would be an audit of, that event and the behaviors and practices around that. So there's like topic specific, but also, that agency might get a regular review as part of the standard audit practices. So as far as I understood, when I met with auditors, this was just part of their standard cycle.
Yeah, that is the case, that they go through a regular cycle of auditing. It's interesting that it's been this long. In fact, I think I'm more surprised that it's taken this long for the OIM to be audited again. And I don't know how many they've had previously. We know that the last one was 2011, but we don't know how long prior to that.
Then it was created the 10 years before. So if they're on a 10-year cycle,
Right.
the office didn't exist to audit in the first place.
Right. So that's interesting. Yeah. Right.
But I guess I'm not surprised. Like the monitor's office has, under 50 staff. There are dozens of organizations that are part of the city. And so it takes a long time to sort of audit all of them. And yeah, I guess I wouldn't be surprised that it had been 10 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other topics on the audit? or reporting?
I think I'd like to talk about the clarify and expand legal authority.
Okay, let's move up to that one. So that header is clarify and expand legal authority for disclosure, amend the ordinance to authorize OIM to publish summaries of misconduct, narrow confidentiality exemptions to prevent misuse, require public notice wherever information is withheld, citing the legal justification. Thoughts on this?
Amend ordinance, we'd have to work with the city council and who else?
That's it.
Mayor.
Sure.
To amend the ordinance, you need city council and the mayor sign off, or a veto-proof majority of city council.
This to me feels similar to what the auditor recommended, and it seems similar to what we talked about with Liz at the beginning of the meeting, is just looking at, does the ordinance have conflicting direction in it? And if so, clarifying that.
And it is, I've never done it, so I have no idea. Is this a pretty cumbersome process?
Let's see, for the ordinance changes that are coming up based on non-financial settlement terms, we started that conversation at the end of 2023, and it'll go to the voters 2025, so 2 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I would say it varies pretty widely. I remember in 2023, we updated our own ordinance to allow bigger stipends for board members, to revise the appointment process, things like that.
That's right, yeah.
When it is just affecting the COB, and if city council and the mayor, and then it's non-controversial, it can go pretty fast. I think in that case, it was closer to 6 months. When it involves other agencies, like the non-monetary disclosures it requires the city attorney's office to do something. It's related to public safety actions and things like that. And so when it starts touching other departments, especially other departments that have a lot of lawyers, it takes longer. And so the non-monetary terms, we did not have direct opposition from the Department of Public Safety to overcome either. It was more of a how do you word this kind of problem? And we had city council supporting, and so that still took I think the actual ordinance we started it, our whole process was about 2 years, but I think the ordinance itself probably took closer to 1 year.
Yeah, it's not like an endless process, but in this case, right, as we've discussed, there needs to be some research as to like what are the conflicts, right? Meeting with the monitor and the city attorney. So, I would suspect this would take some time, but it doesn't mean, it's not a good idea or a bad idea. It's just, these are processes that have many stakeholders along the way.
Well, I know it's frustrating for many parties. I used to do this kind of work at the University of Denver where we had investigations and, we could not share any information until such time as the investigation had closed and then a finding determined. And the most that we could tell people was that a finding was determined.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't that we could give details because these are very delicate legal situations with personnel, with various other kinds of issues that come into play. So requiring public notice whenever information is withheld, citing the legal justification. The legal justification is very simple. This is a personnel matter. I can't speak about it. And that's unfortunate that the public desires more, but there's reasons why it has to be that limited.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not sure what we can really, I'm not sure that we can satisfy that request of citing the legal justification. If it's a personnel matter, that's it.
I agree. The other item here, authorize OIM to publish summaries of misconduct investigations in their reports, their typical reports, annual and semi-annual. Those are communicated. There's usually a section where, you know, a dozen different misconduct investigations are summarized and provided as part of that report. So I would say, you know, this is something that the OIM is doing. It's not doing it in real time, like Julia was investigated, and then here's the result of that investigation. It's categorized based on sort of outcomes, or, you know, if an officer resigns prior to discipline or things like that. That's all in those reports. So perhaps it's clarifying to the community where they may find that information. And then, yeah, that would be something to sort of clarify there. Monitor Castle, is there anything you want to say about that item?
No, we do that. We can't publish every case. It would be, there's 600 cases plus for each department. So we take anything that is 10 days, that is a discipline of 10 days or more. That's kind of our threshold for serious violations. So that's category D or above.
Yeah, but worth noting that, you know, there would be dozens of pages of like failure to qualify for your firearms training kind of things. And, you know, that maybe is interesting to the public, but perhaps more summary information on that. But that's already included in the annual report. So maybe more clarity on that item since it's information that's already available. Anything else on this topic? I want to make sure we're moving through.
Okay, yeah, that's probably it.
Okay. The first item, because we're going backwards, strengthen public transparency requirements, require full disclosure of case outcomes and systemic findings, except for prohibited by law, mandate unredacted annual and quarterly reports with only legally necessary redactions, establish public dashboard with real-time data on complaints, investigations, and discipline outcomes, and exert the OIM's powers to hire outside counsel to review the draft reports for legal requirements, and limit the CAO's, the city attorney office's conflict of interest where reviewing draft reports. So the OIM and the COB are already mandated to publish an annual and the OIM semi-annual report as well. And it is not redacted, it's publicly available. So I'm not sure if folks sort of don't know that exists, but those reports are quite robust, I'll say, you know, generally 40 pages long. And so if there's different format of information or more regular updates, maybe that's, I know it's something that the board has been interested in, but in terms of the actual ask here, I think it's already met. Daniel, there is a dashboard with complaints, is that right? On the department's website? I'm forgetting.
Yes, the Department of Public Safety and the Denver Police Department each have a dashboard related to internal affairs cases and outcomes. They are perhaps not in the most ideal form, but they do exist with information about, you know, how many complaints are active, how many have been sustained. But I think there's certainly room for improvement in those dashboards, and they are, again, run. The DPD has a dashboard on their own cases, and the Department of Public Safety has a dashboard of cases for the Sheriff's Department, cases related to the Sheriff's Department.
Okay, and we have asked for improvements over time and different ways of reporting data and things like that. So if community members have ideas on additional improvements, that might be a good thing to bring up with the departments of safety. Certainly, we're always asking for more data and information from them. So,
you know, Julia,
like
Alfredo has his hand up. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Alfredo. You're on mute.
You figure after 6 years, I would figure out where the unmute button is. So regarding reporting, I'm wondering, Monitor Castle, if you could speak to whether you would be able to report on overall concerns about the investigation process and what kinds of deficiencies you're seeing.
So one of the things that's included in the ordinance is reporting in an aggregate fashion, sufficiency of investigations, and I believe recommendations. So in order to do that, we need a database because we need to compile all the information and be able to identify where those deficiencies are. In those, identify those recommendations. It is my understanding, again, I joined the office in 23, that since the beginning of the OIM, we have worked towards getting a database to get that information so we can publish it in aggregate form. It's my understanding that we went through multiple, we've been asking the city, so this is, we need the city to give us permission to have this database or work with the city because we're a city agency. And it's my understanding that over the years, we've been asking and asking and asking the city to provide us with a database. For whatever reason, I can't speak to what happened before I got here, but that request was ignored. We eventually, the OIM attempted to create its own database and had kind of a database going, and the city came in and said, and it's not the city attorney, it's the technology office. You can't use that database because it doesn't, the city has to be able to access it, I guess. And we were told to take it down. So we tried again to get them to give us a database, same issue. Then the office again created a different internal database that we hoped would satisfy the city, and were again shut down from doing that. So most recently, while Greg was interim monitor, he was able to finally get the city to agree to create a database for us so that we can report this information. That was finally approved in, I believe it was 2022, and I don't want to put Greg on the spot because he's lost his voice. And we launched it in I believe it was 2023. I think it was the spring of 2023. So we finally have the kind of database that we need in order to present information such as regarding sufficiency of investigations and kind of where the cases go back and forth to use. It is a cumbersome process to have a new database program. We have to make sure everybody's on the same page. There are procedures, there are rules, there's review. The good news is I think we're finally at the point where we're ready to begin using that information for our public reports. So you will be seeing that definitely by the annual report, the 2025 annual report, and maybe even some beginning structure of it in our 2024 semi-annual report.
Great. So just to summarize, it's taken a while to get to this point. There's been a lot of roadblocks, both technology-wise, data-wise, but we're now at a point where we will be able to start seeing a report that documents the deficiencies within the overall investigative process and help us identify those bottlenecks, those areas that we can turn to rather than overhauling all of the process with an EBD-like off-ramp to better understand where we can reform the system as it exists.
I think how it can be used is in many different ways, and that remains to be discussed. And seeing what we're concentrating on is making sure that our data is accurate, that it is, forget the, I'm not a data person, but that it is proven, and those are checks that we make internally. Our policy team runs that data, double checks the data, and like I said, I think we're almost there. As soon as that's done, we can give that information.
Right.
Curious,
Thank you.
Daniel, is it, do we have a link to the dashboard that the DOS, Department of Safety, has on their website?
Yes, I'm happy to drop it. I'll drop it in the chat for everyone.
I'm just curious whether if people are looking at the COB page, whether we could just link them into the dashboard that Department of Safety has.
There is a link on the COB page, on the Oversight in Denver page, but it's not like super prominent at the top, but it is there.
Yeah, if we can make it easy so that people can see it, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, what this topic raises is like something that the board has been talking about a lot, right? How do we engage more people in this information? How do we get more information into people's hands? How do we energize people around the issues that we see here? And so I think, you know, it's a good set of themes for our engagement committee to sort of be thinking about. I'm reminded too that we've often had conversations with the director of safety about how might they publish, you know, anonymized lists of disciplinary actions, things that are a little bit more meaty and not in summary form. And there's been a lot of back and forth on that topic over time. You know, a con would be if Julia made, you know, a mistake and I put the wrong information in the wrong folder, and now my name is on sort of a, you know, a list of people who have made mistakes like that or much more severe mistakes. You know, are we creating an environment where nobody wants to be a police officer because your name gets on a list if you make any old mistake? On the other hand, you know, a lot of the mistakes are not any old mistakes. A lot of the mistakes are, you know, create harm and trauma and other things. So we will, I think, continue to have those conversations with the executive director of safety, because there's certainly always opportunities for more transparency and more information. And you know, the other side of this conversation is, you know, we have asked for the monitor's office to find ways to also engage folks on data, maybe beyond the annual and semi-annual reports. And so we've had lots of conversations about that. Of course, it comes down to having the people to do that. And so, you know, it gets back to staffing. And now that we are on our way with a database at the monitor's office, perhaps that makes it easier, but maybe doesn't solve all of the challenges that are wrapped up into that. Any other discussion on this topic? And I think we've got some folks who want to make public comment, and I'm seeing some chat. Oh, that's internal chat. Okay. But maybe there are folks from...
One comment before we open it up, Julia, and maybe if Monica Council wants to speak a little bit to it. I do think that some of the headlines that are out there are a little biased and inaccurate about the OIM and the work that we do being carried out in secrecy. And a lot of that, I think, is extremely unfair and biased. So want to make sure to speak to that and offer Monica Castle an opportunity to respond to that directly around the delicate balance required of us when it comes to deliberative privilege.
Thank you, Alfredo. We definitely appreciate that. We have felt that this report and the way it was blasted to the media specifically was incredibly biased, inaccurate, unfair. and sensational, more to gather headlines. While having said that, obviously we welcome any review of our office and our procedures, and that is why in the end we wound up agreeing to the recommendations made by the auditor. What we do not agree with is the basis for which they claim that we are not transparent and do not report transparently. And instead of identifying what the limitations are as to what the OIM can and cannot publish. And so I think that that's kind of the sensational part of this. We work really, really hard, and we have been publishing for 20 years recommendations that I've made. We've brought issues to the public. I would identify the Michael Marshall report regarding treatment of inmates at the Sheriff's Department, the George Floyd report with regards to the protests and those recommendations and the changes that were made, the DSD rollout of body-worn cameras, the DSD's handling of written reprimands and appeals. So to say we are not being able to publish internal recommendations, as Rufina identified, kind of in the civil commission world, that's just the ordinance. That doesn't mean we don't publish recommendations. And so though all of those reports, other reports we have, all of the blue boxes that we report on, those are all recommendations made by the OIM, and we will continue to do so. Can we do more? Yes, we'd love to do more to the degree that we can based upon our resources and staffing. But to say that we don't publish recommendations is just completely unfair and inaccurate. I'd also note that comments made by the audit committee include from Jack Blumenthal. I'm old enough to have seen the evolution of what you do, and a lot of the things that we see, a lot of stuff are pretty black and white. And what you do is one of the toughest jobs in terms of balancing act in the city government. Excuse me. So I laud you for all that you are doing, and also in light of the budget cuts and the numbers you report, for your whole attitude of how you are going forward and what you are doing. Auditor O'Brien stated, I want to echo Jack's comments and applaud you for the work that you do, because I cannot think of a more difficult job than being a police officer or sheriff's deputy, and then for you to have to oversee some of the difficult situations that occur with those men and women. So kudos to you and your staff, and we are looking forward to continuing to work with you. Unfortunately, we appreciate those comments, and I appreciated them at the hearing. That is not how the report presented itself. So again, we take the suggestions and the recommendations to heart. We will follow through with those recommendations where we disagree as to the basis of those recommendations.
Great, thank you for that. And real quick, Rufina, just the last comment that I'd like to make, especially for those that are in the public watching the meeting. The nature of this work is really, really difficult. And there's a lot of different interests at stake. Being part of a volunteer board with people, having full-time jobs and being there to step up because we care about the city and we care about public safety. There's a lot there. So just ask for that grace and that understanding, and also know that there's, we're new in this role, and that requires us to continue to learn about how best to exercise and practice that independent role within public safety, given the constraints that are there. But it is something that we're all actively engaged in, and we care about deeply, and continue to find ways to be better public servants in this role. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to say that I was very concerned about that headline in the Denver Post, because if no one knows anything about the Office of Independent Monitor, it would appear as though there's this shadiness and secrecy and deliberate intent to keep information from the public. And it's actually the opposite of what is really what we're trying to do. I take from a number of these requests, these proposed reforms that we're, and I'll speak for the Citizens Oversight Board here. I think we can do better about sharing information, and we're going to continue to try and increase the opportunities to share information. And some of it may be that we need to be more proactive about it. However, we are very fortunate in Denver to have the Citizens Oversight Board and Office of Independent Monitor that were created 20 plus years ago. Other cities don't have this. And so the information that we've been able to derive is certainly more than others get in other parts of the country. But nevertheless, what I'm saying is we can continue to improve the information sharing, but it's not that the Office of Independent Monitor is working in secret, with or against the police, whatever. The point is that under legal requirements, certain things cannot be shared. We can't share names, we cannot share specifics at times, because that's what's required under the law. And so I just want to reiterate that we can improve our information sharing to the extent that the law allows.
Thanks all. Certainly complicated set of topics, and appreciate the comments of the board. I echo that. There's always room for improvement and opportunities for better sharing of information to broader groups in ways that they're interested in receiving. Are both on the monitor side and the board side. We tend to release kind of long reports, and only if you're really wonky like us do you want to read that report, or if you need maybe some bedtime reading, maybe that's a good thing to help you sleep at night, but or maybe it doesn't help you sleep at night actually. So yeah, I think many things can be true here, and I think the other board members are highlighting that. Okay, we have gone much longer on this topic than I had hoped. And I wanted to have some time for committees to sort of share out anything that they're working on, and highlight for the entire board things that are worth sort of mentioning. And so does the Community Engagement Committee want to go first?
Julia, before we start, if we could hear from a couple of the public that have been patiently waiting for us to give our comments, if we could allow for a couple of comments.
Yeah, I was going to go to public comment after we finish our discussion, but happy to change the agenda if folks want. Okay, do we have people who have raised their hand? Oops, I just raised my hand for public comment. I think Reagan Benson, I see that your hand is up, and Daniel, if you want to move Reagan into the bigger session, we will take her comments. Reagan, can you hear us?
Good morning. Yes, I can
Great.
hear you. Can you hear me?
Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Just for clarification, it's Regan, long E, not
Sorry
Reagan.
about that.
That's okay. Thank you. Wow, this has been an incredibly powerful public discussion that this board has had today, and I want to thank you all again for your commitment to the people of this city that depend on utilizing a process that, in my very strongest opinion, is not working for the public. I see a look of defeat on everybody's faces today. I'm sorry. I feel the same way. It feels hopeless, but we continue the fight for transparency and understanding and utilizing a process that's supposed to be fair and equitable for all, not just some, all. And that is what I have always done by utilizing this complaint process that Denver truly is honored to have throughout this nation. It's one of 3, I think. Don't quote me. I look forward to it being strengthened to the point where people are have a look of satisfaction on their face that a process is working. But it's unfortunate right now, for me especially, that this process doesn't work, because what it does is it creates retaliation for someone like me, on me. And last I spoke to you, I had made it clear to you what the Denver Police Department was doing to me again for the 7th time, writing a warrant. I went to jail. Now I'm dealing with a particular police officer who I have filed multiple complaints on, who the city, particularly the Denver Police Department, has cleared in every circumstance, and who's now utilizing a civil process to get a civil protection order. Did it once. He didn't show up to court. I got served again today with the same civil protection order. That this particular officer is privy to all of my information because of his role as a police officer. This isn't going to stop. It's clear that this individual is going to abuse the court process to silence my voice and not allow me a public process for protest and redress. And the city and the police department are supporting it. So you want to talk about having a look of despair and hopelessness on a face. You can't see it on mine right now, but it's there. This costs me money and time, humiliation. It's stress on my family just because of words. So when you talk about protections from retaliation, keep in mind the citizens that exist as well that don't get any protections. I'm a little bit confused on the new process. I'm shifting gears here on how the public is informed about the closing of investigations. When I spoke to you last, I talked about a complaint that was 1.5 years old that hadn't been responded to. Well, it got responded to that day. Interesting. I felt the response was disingenuous. It was an attempt to make an excuse for why it took 1.5 years, and it allowed a process so no one can talk about it. Yeah, convenient. The city is doing that. The police department is doing that. So there's that. I talked about jail complaints that just poof up and disappeared. Well, I got a letter from the OIM yesterday that a complaint in 2023 has now been resolved by the AIU, and that I should receive a letter from the AIU giving the details of this complaint and its disposition. I have yet to receive that. I don't even know what the complaint was for. I've forgotten. I'm assuming it was a jail complaint, but I won't even know what complaint it is because the complaint won't be detailed in either letter. So I don't even know exactly what the complaint was for. My complaints drag on for years. And so my newest complaint, being in the Denver jail just last week, the conditions were absolutely horrid. I mean, the worst that I have ever seen. Rotting food, filthy floors, 3 people to a cell. I was on the floor. How do I get immediate recourse for those jail conditions to be addressed immediately? They're not. I filed a complaint. it'll drag on for years. There were women being denied feminine products, the screams and cries from the cells, from the women begging to be let out that are experiencing mental health issues. I don't think anybody truly understands that level of helplessness. To see it and feel it and watch it. And there's no recourse, none. This is torture in the United States of America. And I get to file a complaint and wait 2.5 years for a response. So I'm utilizing, again, a public process here. I'm making the time and taking the time just like all of you. I'm appreciative of what you're doing and attempting to continue to do for transparency and honesty, for thorough and proper investigations that are equitable for all. That's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Do board members have questions for Ms. Benson?
Now, just to let you know, Ms. Benson, we have a meeting with Sheriff Diggins very soon. I think it's the October 10th meeting. And we will inquire into some of these questions.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. In the meantime, people are still being denied. These are the same complaints I've made for years. Communications, no tablets, no access to inmate handbooks. Thank you. I'll come back on October 10th for that meeting.
Any other board members?
Daniel, is the meeting with Sheriff Diggins on the 10th, or is it the October 24th? I'm looking at our website.
It is the 24th.
Yeah.
I apologize, my mistake.
And not to I appreciate you taking the time to come on and share this with us, but we'll just invite you to come back during that day if you have the time to be able to join us that day. I think it would be valuable, Reagan, for Sheriff Diggins to hear that directly from you.
Thank you. Will do.
Okay, thank you. Have other members who are attendees who are interested in public comment? I see Thomas Mays has his hand up, so we can promote Thomas into the participant group. Great, Pastor Mays, can you hear us?
You are still muted, sir.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we
Yeah.
hear you.
Great.
Welcome.
Thank you for all the work that you're doing, and I know it's tedious work. I just had a question. I know it's the Citizens Oversight Board. The citizens part of it is what I'm concerned about. How are you engaging the citizens to give you strength in this board so that rather than 9 of you or 12 of you, but instead it's got the entire citizenry involved in and backing the efforts to bring about change. I am the regional Denver Metro regional leader for the Interfaith Alliance, and we have 400 churches and plus that we engage with that are members of the Interfaith Alliance. And I think it would be advantageous for this group to get some backing from the citizenry rather than just the board going. So I just want to give you that opportunity. And I did put something in the chat as well. I'm hoping and praying that we can work together. We're always better together. And some of the issues that Ms. Benson mentioned, those can be addressed, but the voices of 12 is not the same as the voices of hundreds. So I just encourage you in that area, and I hope that would be an invite that we're welcome to hear and join forces to give you the more strength, more bite. And when you speak, they're hearing not just from the board, but it's the citizens board. It's the citizens board. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you, Pastor. Appreciate your commentary. We have recently created a community engagement committee, and so I'm seeing faces here. Maybe folks can follow up with you if they haven't already after this call. You know, we've gone through peaks and valleys with the coalition of community organizations in town, and I think, you know, given the pressures that EBD is putting on, you know, all of us. And a lot of the changes in the public safety realm, you know, I think folks are more interested and activated than they have been in the past couple of years. So we're eager to collaborate with you. Community Engagement Committee, anything you want to say in light of the pastor's comment?
Yes, Pastor Mays, thank you so much. We appreciate the comment, and we certainly 100% agree with you that this is the Citizens Oversight Board, and indeed does need to have that citizens' input in the mix. And as of this year, we have instituted the Community Engagement Committee to try and do exactly as what you're describing, touching base with a number of different communities. And certainly that's a challenge because we have a very robust community, and the input is slowly getting into the mix. I don't mean slowly in the fact that we hold our meetings every 2 weeks, and certainly we encourage input at that time, but we're being more proactive about contacting organizations and trying to keep aware of those community questions and issues that they want us to respond to. And as Julia mentioned, we've been very pressured with the EBD issue. But that's not an excuse. It's just a reason why we've actually been able to talk to a number of folks. And certainly you've seen the outcome in terms of perhaps the Brother Jeff town hall, and now we're having the Latino Community Forum on October 13th. So we're going to continue to do better in terms of that, getting the citizens' voice into the mix here. So thank you for your comments.
Thank you so much.
And if you, I noticed the question, will this board be a part of the Building Trust Summit? Unfortunately, I can't attend. A number of us are attending a conference that week, but the answer is yes. It's just a matter of who might be available on the 25th. So we'll work that through.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I am not seeing any additional hands raised in the attendee group, so perhaps we'll move on.
We have another person.
Oh, great.
Dr. Calderon put it in the Q&A that she'd like to give public comment, but she's willing to wait to the end.
Okay, well, I think, you know, we probably need to be at the end here so that we can move on to perhaps some topics in executive session. So let's do that. And sorry, it's so much more awkward to do this on my phone than on a computer. Let's promote Dr. Calderon into the participants, please.
And Dr. Calderon, if you could raise your hand again, there are 2 of you in the attendee list. Just want to make sure I'm promoting the correct one. I am not seeing a hand raised right now.
Dr. Calderon? She's still there, right?
Oh, she's switching. She said she has to switch devices, so.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well, we'll wait just a minute. And I will switch us to executive session if I can have a motion after Dr. Calderon comes on. If Monarch Castle, do you have matters to cover in executive session?
Yes, I have
Okay.
one matter.
Okay. Great. I believe the board does as well. So if I may have a motion to move to executive session after the conclusion of public comment.
So move.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes. All right, when we are ready, we will continue public comment.
Seems to be working. We now have 3 Dr. Calderons in the participant group. So as soon as I see a hand raised, I will promote.
Okay, great. I guess it's one way to be in many places at once, right? If you just duplicate yourself.
Here we go.
Okay, great. Dr. Calderon, can you hear me?
I can.
Hi there.
Sorry about
Great.
that. I was
okay.
expecting to go on the end, so I had a rush.
We've reached the end. Go ahead.
So first of all, thank you all for being open to the feedback that we sent as part of our coalition with Women Uprising, the task force on reimagining policing. Dr. Davis is actually traveling now, so he couldn't be here. And also the Denver Justice Project. I did promote the event for the Latino community event yesterday when I was on Brother Jeff's show. I hope we get a good turnout and look forward to seeing materials for that. I think that you all, and I'm sorry I was late because I had another meeting, because I just want to echo, I think, what people have said over and over again for years. This meeting time is hard for people who are working during the day. So I would implore you to think about an evening meeting or a more accessible time. So just put that on if we're talking about more community engagement. That's certainly, I think, part of the challenge here. So I missed the part about you all talking about the auditor's report. What I'm hoping is that we can have a meeting with community stakeholders to go through certainly our recommendations, but any other concerns that we have. And I agree. I did hear the part about that it felt unfair in terms of the headline. Definitely get that and want to continue our collaborative partnership that we've had historically with the Monitor's Office. The COB, I think, is probably at one of the strongest that I've seen ever since it was created. So hats off to Julia and the leadership for that. So I feel like we are on the right track, and more people and more community needs to hear about it. I also think it's important to take in the feedback about the recommendations about transparency. And just by analogy, my daughter is triracial. We intentionally raised her to say who you are, because if you don't say who you are, you will be defined by other people. And I would say the same thing for the Monitor's Office. I think that there is an identity issue. And when we don't see a swift response, if there is something that is inaccurate, such as, or unfair, such as some of the headlines that came out, and we do not see a public statement from the Monitor's Office agreeing with these points and refuting this point or characterization, but just simply saying we accept the recommendations, that doesn't inform us about basically what you all said today, which was very helpful. So I think part of the identity issue is in these times when police forces are being nationalized at the federal level, people want to see a fighter or an entity that's fighting for them. And so I think that that's a piece of what's missing here, is that we are in different times now. And we need that, hey, when this comes out, I mean, I was looking for it. When it something derogatory or controversial comes out about the monitor's office, we want to see a rapid response. So I think that there's also a PR problem. And I get it that there's not a PR department in the monitor's office, but it needs to be someone's job to know that if information is coming out and it may be changed, it may be negative, that there needed to be some behind the scenes work, because it's what I do. When we know a story may be coming out, we reach out to those reporters and say, hey, this may be coming out. Let me give you context. And it's off the record. And now I'm willing to go on the record for XYZ. So I think we can't just leave it at, it was an unfair headline. We have to drive the headlines. We have to get ahead of stories. We have to explain things as soon as they come out about what's agreed on and what's not agreed on. Just the other piece I want to say is that I did not hear, and again, I apologize for being late, so maybe that's how I missed it, what the pushback is to the city attorney's office. And this isn't new. This has been ongoing even before our current monitor, right? We've always had this challenge with the city attorney's office essentially taking the reins and saying what the monitor can and can't do. And we're over that. We want to see systemic change. We want to see the monitor and the COB fighting for that transparency that the city attorney's office is stifling. And I agree with the auditor that the city attorney's office should not be pre-reviewing the reports of the monitor. There should be independent legal counsel for that. And so if we need to fight for a charter change or a policy change or whatever it is to get independent legal counsel and get it funded for the monitor's office, then let's fight for that. But I don't think we need to keep accepting the status quo. And then the final point that I'll make is we sent you all also outline of how we think that the executive director of safety's office needs to change. It makes no sense that we keep doing business as usual. Right now, during a leadership change, we should all be reevaluating the effectiveness of that office, how it works with COB, and not just accept business as usual. If you look at the timeline that I presented in that document, you see that that position historically is very tumultuous, controversial, and is embedded to protect the mayor. So for everyone to just kind of throw up their hands and to say, well, you know, Al Gardner's gonna be, you know, not endorsed by council anyway, so why put up a fuss? That's another missed opportunity to tell community, whether he's endorsed or not, confirmed or not, here's what we expect as the COB. Here's what we expect as the OIM. Here's the problems that there have been. We hope that he can address that. And if y'all are doing that privately with him, great, but we also need to see it in the public. This should be about systems change and not about individuals. So we're going to continue to fight for systems change and how we have accountability and transparency across all of our departments who are supposed to be protecting all of us, including our constitutional rights. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Questions for Dr. Calderon?
So I would love to just get a response on our points. So if you all want to follow up and give us a formal response on the points that we raised, that's fine. But that's what I wanted to share.
I do think that definitely a response will be made, and this is the kind of input that I'm hoping that we can have in different forums and different formats. And so please continue to send us this kind of feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. And I know we received, I think, a few proposals and letters in the past maybe 3 days. So give us a minute to coordinate ourselves on that, and we will certainly provide you our thoughts. Okay.
Sure, no
And
problem.
also,
Thank
just
you.
real quick, I want to thank you, Dr. Calderon, for your statement. Very powerful, very compelling, and something that we all need to hear and continue to find ways to collaborate and do this together. Because as Pastor Mays, you know, you can only do so much when you're a group of 9, and we're really not. We're a city that's united and that is ready and able to step up with a lot of brilliant leaders and figures that care deeply about these issues. So thank you for what you do and for your statement.
I agree, Alfredo, and thank you so much. I appreciate it. I appreciate the work of all of you. Thank you.
All right. With that, if we don't have any other folks wishing to make public comment, and I cannot see, so tell me if we do. Otherwise, we will adjourn to executive session, and we'll see everybody over there.
There's
Thanks
no
for
one
a
in
good
the queue,
discussion
so.
today. Okay, great. See you all over there. Thank you.